Love is top of the tree because love covers everything. Even when she's getting on your nerves, which is quite a lot of the times, love covers everything. You've got to know the reasons why you're there. You're there with your wife because you love her, and everything else pales into significance, even if she gets on your nerves or she does something wrong. So you've got to have love. You've got to love your wife. Sympathy. At the end of the day, especially if you have children, you've got to understand that your wife has gone through a lot to have a child. She's done that for you because she loves you. And sometimes husbands don't really take that into consideration. They just think it's not that difficult once the child has been delivered. But there is nothing apart from the love of God that compare to a mother's love for a child, because that child originated inside the body of that woman. No matter how much a father loves a child, but at the end of the day, a mother's love is the strongest love apart from the love of God that you can have. And you have to sympathise sometimes, especially with a woman which goes through all sorts of bodily changes which result in mental attitudes and fatigue and all sorts of things. And you have to sympathise, and you have to be helping your wife to get through the difficulties that inevitably comes across, especially when you have children. Patience. Because in a marriage, everything does not always run smoothly. You will inevitably have clashes, conflicts, especially if you have strong characters, both male and female within the marriage. And so you must have patience, and you really got to see the end plot. At the end of the day, I can see no life with me but for my wife being next to me until we both depart this world. Empathy. You've got to look at your wife's point of view. If you empathise with what she's saying, and sometimes, I'm speaking as a man relating to a wife, but it can quite easily be on the other foot. But sometimes when your wife says something to you, she doesn't necessarily mean it in the way that she said it, or she's perhaps not aware of the full facts before saying something. And the things I'm talking about are really issues that could cause conflict. And you have to be aware that there are numerous things that can cause conflict. And if you're too precious about how your wife speaks to you, there is an order of things in my family, but if you're too precious in terms of feeling indignant about the way your wife speaks to you, as some men often are because of a lack of security, they feel insecure in themselves, then that in itself will bear pressure on the marriage, which could escalate. Resilience, because especially if you have children, you've got to be resilient. Your children will play off one against the other. A child will come to one of you and say, "Can I have this, Daddy?" And you'll say no, and they'll go around and they'll say, "Mummy, can I have this, please?" And if Mummy doesn't know how it all works, or vice versa, and she'll say yes, and then conflict can arise when the child gets their own way because the parents have not been attentive to each other and how things work within the marriage.